Kalle Beck with the Strong Talk podcast, and we have you might be a record-setting guest numbers now, Lynn.
Working
third
on
time, third time. Really appreciate you coming on, Lynn Morehouse of Train Strongman, trainstrongman.com, hosting the official Strongman Games coming up this December. We just got done with the official Strongman Games online qualifiers, which is a new thing. So just since it's pretty much wrapped up and you're going through and confirming, giving out the invites and confirming the people that say yes or no, I figured it'd be a good time to catch up, get your thoughts on everything. And it's always good to talk to you on a Sunday. So thanks for coming on, Lynn.
I'm happy to be on the show, as well as just to have good old conversation talking about strongman. I love it.
Yeah, you can't complain. So, it came about a little bit. We talked about it on the last episode. I probably should have looked which episode number that was, but if you put in official Strongman Games on here, you can pop that up and listen to our last conversation, kind of talking more about how it all came about. But I just want to reiterate, what was the thought process? Because there was invites given out. We're just to go back a little bit, this is basically, the official Strongman Games. I don't know what the correct wording is exactly, but it's basically like a World's Strongest Man, except for World's Strongest Man, like the heavyweight guys. So for every other weight class, right?
Yes, basically in my first week of promoting this, I was informed of that distinction quite severely. So World's Strongest Man is a very trademarked thing by IMG, and it's for how I've been framing it. It's for the television show. It is absolutely an open weight class, World's Strongest Man, but that is the TV show. This is World's Strongest Man for Masters. This is World's Strongest Man 105K and under, to 231s, and then the 200 pounders and the 175ers.
Sure.
Plus, this is World's Strongest Woman. We have no problem saying that. We've got the rights to say that as a global thing, but it's broken into Masters, Open, so heavyweight, middleweight at 182 and under, and then the lightweight at 64 kilograms and under. I've gotten used to jumping between kilograms and pounds lately.
You get used to it pretty quick, huh?
Oh, yeah. So those are 8 different divisions, but we did not leave out the heavyweight men. We went and included them in the whole process, and we have basically given the top 3. You want to know how to get on TV and be in part of World's Strongest Man, you have to do Giants Live, the official tour. The top 3 from the official Strongman Games will get a qualification towards and an invite towards a Giants Live competition in 2018. That is the path towards World's Strongest Man. You wonder how, Rob Kearney and next year Dave Daly, they go through the Giants Live process. That is very clear. What was unclear is, how do you get to World's Strongest Man 105K?
Sure.
Beyond just being, who that kind of thing, because there was no clear path. People have a clear path towards like the amateur Arnolds, but they didn't know how to get, where's the next level? What we're trying to do is establish that clear path. This is obviously the first year that real organization and thought has been put around it. And no insult to how it's been done in the previous year, but this is, hats off to Colin and Aaron and Darren Sadler and Dave Warner for sort of thinking this through, and then of course bringing me in. I think I'm sort of a catalyst just for moving things forward faster, but this is now going to be something that goes on every year. I don't know whether it's going to be all in one contest like this, where frankly this is a bear. It's going to be 260, 270 athletes. The kind of venue, when you think that Dorton Arena with 20,000 plus unobstructed square feet of floor space and 5,000 stands might not be big enough, that starts to be a problem. So I don't know if it's always going to be in one, and I certainly don't think it makes sense for it to always be in North Carolina or always be in the U.S. for that matter. But the official Strongman Games is definitely going to be an annual thing with the World's Strongest Man titles, World's Strongest Woman titles. And what we're going to try to do, and hopefully today we can kind of clear up some of the path to be included in it, because it is an invite-only contest. What we did this year is we realized there are some contests that have taken place. I'm very intimate with Kimberly Lawrence went and got an invite towards World's Strongest Woman this year from winning the North America's Strongest Woman contest in Canada. Mm-hmm. So she got that invite. That was in the clear before they even knew I was doing anything. They just knew, hey, we've got an invite for this. Dave Warner has a few contests in Europe, the Body Power, that were invites for this contest, regardless of where it was held. What we didn't have is any of those in the U.S. There were no U.S. contests that were automatic invites. And you'll notice some of the invites, we also have some people from South Africa, after talking with Gerhard van Staden about his competitions, and really trying to get a sense of, we want a combination of invites from these high-level contests around the world. That's definitely always going to be a path towards Worlds, and it makes sense. But we also want to open it up. If you are truly the world's strongest level athlete, you need to have access to be on that stage. What we don't want is people in back corners saying they would have been there. They would have won if they could have afforded to go to the Arnold, or afforded to go to Vegas, or whatever high level contest they would have gone to, and they would have won, they would have gotten their invite. This was the online qualifier became this level playing field where, all right, maybe you don't have sponsors, maybe you don't have money, maybe you don't have all the recent equipment to optimize your training for this high level show, but you still can prove yourself and have a shot at getting an invite to World's Strongest Man or Woman in your weight class. That was at least the goal. And we initially said 10 invites and then 20 from the online qualifier. As I started doing it, I couldn't help myself. I had to go over the 10 on the direct invites. Once we started tabulating the number of athletes from some of the Body Power contests, or, taking first place at, say, one of the Arnold contests, as, hey, that would be America's, qualifier, if you will, that kind of thing. 10 goes by really quickly.
Yeah, there's more than 10 high-level athletes that won or placed at high-level shows easily.
Absolutely.
All around the world.
That process was pretty painful, to be honest, because we went through 2 years back, basically, and looked at a ton of different high-level shows. And obviously, there were some invites given from competitions for official strongman before, so they had an invite already. And then it's this backtracking of, okay, does a first place at nationals trump a first place at this? In varying different levels. But
yeah,
I think we ended up inviting the right people. There's certainly more people I would have loved to an invite, but we wanted to have the online qualifier, at least initially, matter. And I think we did that. So when I was going through and doing the invites from that just recently, since that ended at October 1st, I went ahead and started doing the invites 5 at a time. Got a little bit of controversy on that. Everyone would have loved for me to just take a screenshot, at 1 a.m. and, post that screenshot and say, the rest of you go home. That certainly would have been the easiest way to do it. But the actual amount of work that online qualifier ended up posing was a little more than I think, at least myself and the other individuals on Official Strongman and Train Strongman were expecting. I mean, we have hundreds of hours of footage that we went through. And the downfall is it was ever changing. People would do it again just for, 5 more pounds, or do it again for that 1 more rep.
Sure.
And so it's the repeat watching. So there's definitely some lessons learned on that. And certainly instituting some sort of a unverified state, because athletes didn't know whether their stuff was accepted and verified or whether it wasn't. So, really athletes just had to wait for me to put in a comment. And that was my own note taking, where I had to comment on the video so that I knew that I'd already watched it. It was a real challenge, but the benefit is we did go and invite people, and went up to 20, like I had mentioned on the podcast earlier, just so that if someone, wasn't paying attention to my website, where I was sort of saying 17 from the online qualifier because I had gone and done 13 invites, I decided, not everyone's paying attention to the trainstrongman.com website. So I would do the 20 and honor that. Still had people give me a call who were at 21, and it definitely sucks to be in that position. And then I had other people who were, maybe in the ladies divisions where there were less entries, saying, really, I got invited? And I was like, yes, 17th place got you an invite. And maybe next year that level of performance wouldn't. But for this year, there weren't as many people going for it. I went ahead and did a count. We had 185 people submit videos for the online qualifier. I think that's reasonable. It's certainly below what I would have hoped for. And we can talk about, any ideas that you have to increase that in the future. But it does mean that there are some people who are getting to go to Worlds that are going to find some of the weights pretty challenging. That's for certain.
Yeah,
but
you left it open, and that's not really a fault to the organizers. You invited the top. You leave an open invite, and it's kind of up to the athletes to fill those spots and to challenge it. And if I think we might overestimate what the depth is in some of the newer weight classes that, when you really look at it, have only really been at a high level for like 3-4 years, really. Like, I'll take my weight class. Like, what was the first time that there was like an emphasis put on the 80 kilo or 175, whatever you want to put it, was 2012 with Arnold. It's,
yep.
It's like 5 years old, where World's Strongest Man's been around since 76. Or whatever it is. So it just takes time.
Funny thing, though, the 80 kilos, 80, 90, and 105 kilo men's were all about the same amount of entries. I think 31 through 33 number of entries on each. I thought that was pretty interesting that, those divisions, the lighter weight men, took advantage of it. And I'd love to say, hey, maybe that's CrossFit, but no, these were strongman athletes. This isn't we never actually took advantage of any sort of crossover at this point, which would have been kind of neat. Ideally, I think a long-term strategy is for this to be having some sort of a leaderboard effect where, hey, maybe I know I'm not at that level, but I'd love to know where I am.
Exactly.
And it's just going to take a lot higher percentage involvement to get there. And, we'll take the feedback, figure out what we can do. But that being said, I have had no one say that they aren't interested in coming. And the only people who have not been able to are either out of country and just couldn't afford it. And I think there's only like one of those or two of those, or they went and got an injury. And so,
you're
whatever it is,
you're talking about the athletes that earned an invite through the qualifiers,
absolutely,
and then confirming it.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, just from the direct invites, I think that's a power to the show. So I can go and, make a contest and invite all the best people in the world. Anyone can do that. If they say yes,
you literally can.
That tells you something.
Yeah, anyone literally can. That's the thing. Like, a lot of people get where they might get mad or they say, why is this ran like this or whatever. And it's like, you can kind of do it yourself. It's just, you probably don't want to put the time and resources into it, and you're going to find it's probably not worth it for your end goal. But if you want to drum up some money and just have some show somewhere, you're open to invite whoever the hell you want to it. I think a lot of people need to realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it never hurts to ask. I think
Yeah.
Clint Darden is a good example of this.
Okay.
I found out from a fellow Masters athlete that Clint had turned 40. I didn't know he was a Masters competitor. He didn't show up on any of my invite lists. And so, he might be in some ways a little controversial because he received an invite. But when I started doing a little bit of research, I realized, all right, this is someone who actually is pretty darn motivational, inspirational, however you want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And he has an opportunity to help grow the Masters division of strongman. And really, the same way Nick Best, absolutely. Nick Best, age is nothing but a number.
Sure.
He is incredible. Clint Darden going through, active chemo and still training for something. Well, I invited him and he said no.
Huh.
He rightfully said he had done nothing to deserve it. And then when I explained, it wasn't based on performance. It was based on, the building the sport. And there is a certain aspect to that. Yes, you invite the best athletes in the world, but one of the reasons why certain sports gain more exposure than others is personalities. And you need people like Nick Best, who have also the personality, Derek Poundstone, who has that personality to grow the sport. And so I pushed and talked to him a little bit further. And then, of course, he's in Cyprus, so it's like $2,000 plane ticket and all this stuff. But he's an example of someone who really takes this seriously. And I start to get the most pride I've received from this experience so far is seeing the posts from the people when they get their invite and they talk about how much this means to them or how big of a dream this has been for so many years. And I just want to honor that and do it appropriately. This is not just a contest. This is your world's strongest man, your world's strongest woman. Or if you're a heavyweight man who's under 40, this is your path to world's strongest man. And I'm going to go and do my very best to make sure you feel like this was world's strongest man or woman for you and that it was taken seriously and not just a local show in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think there's something to be said. Like, you could say that there's some controversy, like inviting, like Clint. Obviously, he's done strong in the past. He's, he's a great resource in the sport, but he just hasn't competed. But I think that's safe to say, like, same thing, like how this contest is a path to, the heavyweight men's world's strongest man, because there's more, there's more of a demand that, it's harder to get to because there's more people trying to vie for that spot. I feel I'm probably safe to say that the Masters division, it's a growing division, so it's not, in my mind, as big of a deal to give a spot away, to give someone a spot when there's probably a limited amount of numbers in some of the, divisions already. It's not like, I don't think there's probably a ton of people doing the qualifiers in the Masters.
There were less than 20 who did the qualifier.
Sure.
So
there's spots to
example.
fill. So, there's and you do that and you give it to, to someone, and Clint's going to train that. I'm not taking anything away from him here. That he's obviously going to train. I think it'll be good for everyone to have him out there. I'm just using an example, but you need at some point, you need bodies too. Like you said, there's 30 spots. Well, and if there's spots to fill, you can, be a little bit more loose
A great
with
example.
who's invited.
A great example was the women's Masters and women's Open.
Mm-hmm.
So women's Masters, we added sort of at the end as we were receiving essentially a petition form, if you will, of 30 athletes that said they want a women's Masters.
Mm-hmm.
We sent out some direct invites, which I think we had 12 direct invites that went out.
Mm-hmm.
And 6 people did the online qualifier
Right.
for women's Masters. So you're going to see some athletes in women's Masters who, frankly, they're lightweight women's Masters, and we're just not at that level at the sport yet. But they're still showing up because that's how you grow the sport.
Exactly.
You don't wait until there's enough athletes that it can split, because it's never going to happen until enough that show up for women's Masters. So, we go and end up with, say, 18 women's Masters that compete.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's still more women's Masters than I think any women's Masters show has ever had. I'm
probably
pulling that number and statistic out of my rear, obviously.
Could be wrong, but there's a good chance. You're right.
Yeah, it's hard enough to go and get athletes. But Women's Open, also only 6. So we had the advantage, I would say fairly lucky advantage, that USS had a very popular women's show just recently.
Yeah, with a high level of talent too.
Correct. And so we were able to go, and they contacted me, and I was like, yes, if you are an open weight lady or a Masters competitor, I can give you an invite. And that is, once again, to bring bodies to the contest, build the class up.
And I think,
and so, not all of those followed the same path, but it's for the same purpose of growing the sport.
Yeah, and then years down the line, that's, people, it's like the first CrossFit Games, it was pretty much you just show up and you compete. It's a little harder to do it now.
Yes, it is.
I think it's a little harder to get into it now, but that's how it had to start. There has to be the demand, but usually for there to be a demand, you have to show that there's a show and that it matters. And I'm sure, whatever the process is next year, I think you'll have a successful event, and everyone's going to look and go, how do I do that next year? And you go, well, here's how. And you kind of, I think people are kind of weary, and I feel that's something. So you said the lightweight men's categories had a high number of entries in the qualifiers, but sounding like on the women's side there was a low number. And
we ended up, I did some math on that for the 82 kilogram and the 64. We had 20 in both. And really what that means is if you signed up, if you tried, you got an invite.
Sure.
And there could be some people who are upset about that, but it is honest and it is fair.
Yeah. You didn't tell people not to sign up. So
yeah. And there is a cost to it, but I think the $395 a month was very reasonable by official strongman.
Yeah.
Because there is a fee for kind of creating that online qualifier web experience. So you want a little bit of a barrier to entry.
I'm sure was not met by. I know how much it costs to run my website alone and just doing different things. So I'm, plus not to mention the, hundreds of hours of reviewing stuff. That was if people, as a lot of people said when it first came up, it was a money grab. That was one of the worst money grabs of all time, I'd say.
Oh, certainly. And so I would love to do almost a public service announcement for your audience.
Sure.
Promoting a contest in strongman, if you don't own the gym and use the gym as your venue, is not a good way to make money.
No. Yeah. If you already have if you already have the equipment, which is something I've realized, it's one of the reasons, this is way off tangent, but it's one of the reasons why I almost consider just even opening up a gym at all, so it could have serve a dual purpose, because I want to promote contests, but it's such a cost and a pain, to do it without, and I'm like, where would I keep all this equipment I'd need? So I've slowed down on that, but yeah, unless you're 100% right, you can maybe make some bucks if you own the gym and you already have the venue, which you're paying for anyways, and the equipment, so it's serving double use like that. But yeah, it's a bad. Yeah, there's a lot easier ways to make money.
Oh, definitely. So I've got my equipment spread across. Morrisville Community CrossFit has a large amount of my equipment since I do a lot of training there. Spider Strength Gym has a couple of things that they've borrowed, but they've got most of their own equipment. I've got a 3-car garage that's just loaded, as well as car deadlift frames just stacked up against my deck and things like that, as well as 2 storage units that I go in. So strongman equipment's big and heavy.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to store it easily.
No.
And venues like Dorton Arena,
expensive.
I mean, they're expensive. And I don't get to haggle on that. That's government owned. People can look up and see exactly how much I pay for base rent.
Sure.
And then they realize, oh yeah, they'll also nickel and dime you on this, and that. It's not a money grab. And I've done what I'd like to say is a reasonable job expressing 100% of all sponsor dollars is going to the athlete prize pack.
Sure.
So, I really question where people are thinking that, there's a huge amount of money to be gained. Then you throw in the fact that I spent probably 200 hours just on the online qualifier, reviewing videos and submitting feedback to people and trying to get up with people. I'll take minimum wage if I'm trying to make money.
Oh yeah, you could just go get a job at anywhere. You'd be better off. But something I want to know, I think stuff like this interesting, like where the women's side, it's grown obviously a lot. I feel like there's more of a social. I feel like there's a better social media presence from the strong women. They're kind of just better at like posting on Instagram and stuff. I find, but like, I wonder if there's like that bit of that like imposter syndrome, which pretty much everyone, unless you're like a sociopath, deals with. On the women, where they go like, "Oh, I'm just not ready to do World's Strongest Woman," where a lot of them I think were like people that could have. Where I don't know if like men kind of always feel like they're this is a little past our scope, but I'm just curious because I'm thinking of like all the people I know that are, doing, high level contests or at least good at local. I'm like, they're probably up there, but only, 20 or so per division sign up. And then there's, a lot more on the men's side where for big contests, it's not necessarily like that. Just interesting.
Well, I will say that it's very hard to find a show to really test where you are that's got good attendance in the different weight classes. So, I could definitely see someone feeling like they're not prepared if every time they come into a show, weight classes are combined.
Sure.
And I know that's a challenge. And frankly, you in the 175 class, up until recently, that was always one of those classes that seemed to get merged in with 200 or, it's really difficult to know where you are on that kind of thing. The ladies that have received invites have been the most appreciative and excited in comparison to the men. The men are excited, but I think we are trying to get at something where, the men, kind of are like, good, now is my chance to show the world. And the women are like, oh my God, this is the greatest opportunity ever. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think and I think a bit of that is that it's being equally billed, right?
Yeah.
Which like some other sports do, not so much in strongman, but I think it's almost a you could say like it's literally the world's strongest woman open weight class is going to be contested where the men aren't, so it's like almost you could put like a higher bill in, like there's gonna be some competitive classes with that.
I think we have, I can confidently say we have the strongest women in the world who are showing up for this contest. And if and I know there is a lady out there who disagrees, but she had an opportunity to qualify, and honestly, with only 6 people taking that opportunity, that means that that they really were gutless. If you think you are the world's strongest woman out there and you didn't even try, that's a real shame. Yeah. Or you didn't even message me, afterwards, because like right now, I would take an open weight lady.
Sure.
As an invite. If you think you're the strongest out there and the women's open, go for it. Message me. I'm happy to include you. But that being said, I already think they've signed up. I already think they're invited. I already think they're confirmed. Yeah. You look at the lineup and you're like, wow, it is going to be awesome. I love it when I look at the weights of this contest and compare it to even just a couple of years back. And we're talking 1 to 2 weight classes up from just a couple of years back from like nationals weights. This is the big weights being moved, and everyone is excited. No one is running away scared saying, I'm worried I'm going to zero. No, they're training for it and they're excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's awesome. And I think I'm a little bit to blame. I just might as well just talk to you about it on here. Like people would ask, like the Masters. I got a message from someone. They go, "Hey, how come this?" And people they get kind of mad. They're like, "There's men's Masters. There's this." I'm like, I don't know. Ask them. Like you're not like you're pretty. You're easy to deal with, I've found, and so I just ask them, and you're like, oh yeah, it could have just sometimes people you're trying to think of all these different classes, you might just not have thought of it, or someone said like, oh, I didn't even know this was going on. I just took podiumed at this big USS show, and I'm like, well, I don't know, ask. Like, it's.
I have had to say no to some fantastic competitors.
Well, sure.
In other divisions.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can say is we are going to do a much better job where you have a full year runway of knowing how can I get an invite to the official Strongman Games and my World's Strongest Man or my World's Strongest Woman for my weight class or age group. Right. You will know the path ahead of time, and there will always be an online qualifier so that anyone in the world who just can't get to a show because of a wedding or an injury or something else always has an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I figured. The first year, I think it seemed to have went well, but you're only improved from there. Something I wanted to ask is, so you had the 3 events, you had to go through all the video footage, right? What
Mm-hmm.
is there anything you'd change with the online submissions?
Absolutely.
How the process went.
I do not like doing things that are timed. The 30-second deadlift was the worst thing ever because if you can imagine, I am watching the video.
Yeah, with
and
a stopwatch.
I am also looking at the timer on the video, in my playback, and trying to count reps and judging whether they're quality, which I admitted was a very soft judging. The biggest thing I was looking for is touch and go was not allowed.
Sure.
And then, trying to get, okay, was that one right at 29 or was that right at 30?
Yeah.
That is a nightmare. I think that the 3 events chosen had a nice theme where you're trying to do log left 3 rep max, being that's going to test some power and strength.
Mm-hmm.
The deadlift is absolutely conditioning. 30 seconds. What it turned into a 15 rep max.
Pretty much.
That would have been an easier way to judge it if we had just said that, to be honest. And then the farmers was a grip challenge. Doing that turn, I think, reminded people that farmers used to be with a turn. And that's the difference between farmers and frame carry, in my opinion, is whether you have a turn or whether you just do it straight away. So I think a lot of people were surprised when they couldn't make the turn or they spun in circles. I loved watching the video of people, where they posted, and they're just being spun around. One of them, God, I'm trying to remember the athlete's name, and it's blanking on me, but he actually did a full 360 and kind of kept walking. I thought that was awesome. But, so I thought the theme was strong. I believe that doing things off time has a component, but it was just way too much overhead for the official and obviously my team with the trained strongman to be reviewing. Time was really challenging.
Yeah. How many more total tonnage deadlift videos were there compared to farmer's walk submissions?
Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you, here's the difference. No one redid their farmers.
Yeah. No that's one. Good.
Everyone's like, no, I'll go ahead and increase the weight on deadlift and do that a few more times, but I'm never doing farmers again.
Yeah. I'll say I did it early, and then like my body started to hurt. I'm like, I'm not supposed to do this. Like everything started to hurt doing a heavy cycle. So I did my deadlift. I did a farmer submission. Like I was going to do one like right after the deadlift, and it wasn't anything too heavy, but I didn't realize, and I talked to Matt Mills about this a couple weeks ago, is like, I haven't really trained my grip much since I tore my bicep. And I didn't realize how much that affects your grip strength. He said he's had a hell of a time bringing his back. So basically, like I dropped at like 85 feet like 3-4 times. Like I couldn't. It's just my grip's never been good, but it's just I didn't have time to build it up. Then like everything in my left shoulder started to hurt. Then everything in my low back. I'm like. And then I went, it's better if I don't qualify, just so I don't tempt myself to do that train for that heavy of a contest.
It is soul crushing to get 10
like
feet
85,
away
90
from
feet.
the end. It absolutely is. I've been there. I went ahead and, obviously at Morrisville Community CrossFit, we had a pretty ideal facility for that event where, it's all stall mats, so it's easy to count the distance and whatnot, and it's a nice straight shot with enough width to be able to turn around. Mm-hmm. I was so impressed with some of the videos where people are really getting creative inside gyms where they've got like 6-foot walk around, and it's pretty impressive how people were able to make it happen. I love seeing people go outdoors for this event, and of course my favorite was it Richard Yu?
Down at
having
Ironhouse.
Dimitar. They're all outside, and it's a crew of them. And even Dimitar Savatnov is out there. And I was like, Alan, that is awesome. They're all out there to help this because, yes, it was a pain for people. If you are training by yourself and you tried to set this stuff up, I can't even imagine how hard it was. And,
so that's my, just to, before we keep it too much on my, that's my
you
last.
Did that, right?
I did that. So I was like, it was like the last weekend to get it. I'm like, I'm just going to put something up. And like, I don't have the most time in the world to train and stuff as it is right now. Everything keeps me pretty busy. So I try to enjoy my training. I set up a tripod. Like I have like a 60-ish feet like side yard that's all paved, but like I have stuff on every side. So I started to clean everything out. I got like the tiniest space to turn around, and I started to do it. And then I look, and like my tripod fell over, and I was just like, nope, not even, like I just wanted to get it official up there. Like I didn't even plan on competing or anything. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do some farmers walks. It's 72 degrees and perfect out here. I'm in my backyard. I'm just going to do some farmer's walks and have fun today. I'm just like, I'm so frustrated by trying to film and measure all these things. I'm over, and then weigh it. And like, I'm like, I just trained. So.
Absolutely. I had a few people, and I felt so bad on some of the angles of deadlifts and whatnot, where, their whole body doesn't fit in. So I don't know even close if they're locking out, or people would do the farmers and they would come into the frame carrying the farmers.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you picked it off huge blocks
right.
or you had help deadlifting. And so having to turn those away, knowing that this person tried their best to get a stationary phone angled on the ground to show them start and 50 feet turning. I mean, I felt so bad, but I loved watching when there was a huge group of people. And Shamira out of Florida had the same sort of things where there's a group of people out there helping and encouraging with the videos. That is awesome. The strongman community really is the reason why I think all of us do this. And we need to be able to go and show that to the rest of the world that, hey, you know, this is not about you. This is about you and you know, camaraderie, all of that. It's a really neat and I think unique sport.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I think that's the way to do it, especially going forward, and the people listening or whatever, is to plan like gym day. If there is like a, you know, online qualifier, that same kind of setup next year, is to plan those kind of days out at your gym. To, you know, and then everyone's helping each other. You know, you set it up once, you got the angles. There's, you know, someone set up to measure it, because that's the other thing. Like having to pull all your own plates off with a camera after you just did like 30 seconds of deadlift, or, you know, you did 100-foot farmer's walks. That's a pain too. So
evidently gasping for breath and counting weight sounds the exact same in every country.
It's a universal language.
Yes.
Yeah, that must have been fun reviewing all those videos.
Well, and the difference between kilos, oh my gosh, people who have kilo plates and pound plates mixed together, that was annoying.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that, you know, I thought of, like little things. Like I didn't see anyone, I guess they didn't need to get too creative, but just the fact of like using like 1 pound plates, you know, stuff like that on the deadlift, I thought would be a big, I didn't see too much of that, but
I didn't see anyone go and space out the weights with a whole bunch of, say, like 25 metals, and then, you know, a bunch of 45s at the end, so that they had more whip in the bar. I think because it was a dead stop, people didn't end up doing that because it would take longer to settle or something like that. But no, I think that next year or the year after, there's going to be some more creativity. What I will say is this, I wasn't thinking about this until just now. There was a lot of people who were like, everyone's going to cheat. I don't think that happened.
No, I don't.
I really
can't think
don't
of too much of it. I mean, I didn't submit my last submission, so, but
you know what I love is some of the masters men, and they finish their log and they just put the whole log with all the weights on there, and they're like, here, this is how much it weighs. You know, I would rather just weigh the whole thing than even bend over and take these plates off and do the math.
Yeah, my buddy down in San Luis Obispo, a little bit south of here, Andrew Wickham, I saw he did that with his submission. I'm like, he just put it right onto the scale. Like, it was pretty much from lockout onto the scale. Like, I was like,
that's fantastic.
That worked really. I'm like, wow, that was efficient.
Where are you going to try cheating in that? But no, I've been really impressed. There were no people like, you know, the CrossFit Open every now and then has, you know, someone who appears in first place who's looped his video or things like that. And if anyone did that, they did it so well that I didn't notice. But I just think that the strongman community has a little more integrity. And I guess with not having $1 million on the line, they just weren't willing to cheat that hard.
I don't know. I'd check some people's hands after those farmers walks for how sticky they were.
Oh yeah, looking for tacky.
Yeah, I had that talk with somebody.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, there's probably a bit.
If they want to go and ruin their farmers, you know, they can talk to the gym owner or whatnot. But
hey, man,
yeah, you're going to ruin your equipment.
I saw someone do it at a Giants Live qualifier before, so.
You know what? I hate to say it, but if you think that there's a chance, you know, I had an athlete who went to the Arnold Amateurs this past year in March, who said that their axle, when they went up to it, felt a little bit tacky.
Yeah, everyone puts tacky, a little spray tack on their shirt.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Well,
just
no,
me?
on that. the hands area, not just the middle. And so if you really want to have a rule about it, enforce the rule. Check. Have someone who just touches your hands as you walk out. Sorry.
Yeah.
If it's tacky, you're out.
Well,
or don't have the rule. But what's worse is if you have the rule and you don't try to enforce it. That's because the negative perception is, now someone's cheated and we don't know who.
sure.
I would rather not have as many rules. Obviously, I don't want tacky on farmers. And I can go ahead and say it officially. Tacky is not allowed on the farmers in official strongman games, or, the frame carry, I should say.
Yeah,
we don't have straps and no tacky.
Sure. You think it would go without saying, but
You would hope so. And here's the beautiful thing. There is no novice at this contest. Everyone who is in this contest, yes, some of them might not be of the caliber you think is appropriate, but everyone who is at this contest has earned an invite and has competed in the past. So I'm really hoping that the rules meeting isn't filled with, can I go and wear a squat suit for the yoke? Dumb things like that.
sure. So going on to the contest, just a little information, listening. Let's go to the actual contest. The qualifiers are over; they're done.
Yep.
If you didn't get in, they'll be around next year. We'll see if my body's like more cooperative by then. But so I want to go ahead, just kind of run down the events. The log clean and presser max.
Yeah.
How many new world records are going to be hit? I think there's going to be quite a few, because it's not tested at a high level very often.
No, and you can also go and say that some of these divisions might not have established records. So
I think I have them for everything up at on the website. I just redid the records page on that.
So like Masters men,
sure,
separate from the weight classes, and certainly Masters women, there's a number of those kind of records that are going to be broken.
Definitely.
But I think the more interesting metric, because records will be broken, and frankly, it's a lot of effort, and I'd rather have you do it than me to figure out whose records we're breaking. How many people are going over 400 in men? And how many ladies are going over 200 or over 250 in ladies?
Yeah.
I mean, the men, I believe there are at least a dozen that have the opportunity to go over 400. And that includes a couple 105Ks, to be honest.
Yeah, there could be a 105 mix. I don't think a 105, I have to, obviously I just redid it, but I'd have to check. I'm not sure if a 105 has pressed 400 on a log in a contest. So it could be a first.
There's some amazing pressers out there, and then some amazing strength mixed with technique, following the Rob Kearney route, where you've got Nicholas Camby, certainly an incredible opportunity to hit a high number. But there's a lot of people out of Europe that I don't know what your demographics are for listening. I believe it's pretty worldwide, but I was really impressed with some of the European athletes on what they were able to do. But I think there's over a dozen people that are going to go over 400, and I think there's a handful that will go over 450. It is last man standing on purpose. This is not Wessel's rule. This is not just 3 attempts. The order doesn't matter. You can come in, come out. You can use it as your warm-up. You can choose not to. You have the opportunity to set a world record. You have the opportunity to do the best log of your life on this. What has been a challenge as a promoter is I've never had to actually do the math of how much weight can my log actually hold.
Yeah.
and determine. And so I am really excited that Aaron Mullen has one of the old, I think it's the old wood log that Derek Poundstone did a 400-pound world record on way back in the day. and it's lighter now because wood logs lighten up. I hope you guys reweigh your logs years later, or you'll be disappointed with your PRs. But that log will have the ability to go up in weight. So the men's masters and the men's open are actually going to be using that log. We've got 2 wood logs. They're both 12-inch. Courtesy of Aaron Mullen.
Nice.
And they'll be able to start lighter on one log, and then when it gets to the heavy, they're using kind of a historic Flater log. It's exciting for the photo ops, and it's fitting for records to be made on it.
Plus, he's going to be able to MC at the event, right?
Aaron Mullen?
Derek.
I don't know whether
Poundstone.
Derek Poundstone. He's going to be a judge.
Okay.
He might chat on the mic and things like that. I've got a lot of people interested in a lot of different roles. I've got a fantastic MC with Jenna Petrie here. She's got a ton of energy, great speaking opportunities, and a lot of the athletes are like, I don't know what to say in my bio. I go and give the advice. What would you like the announcer to know about you? Sure. Because one of Jenna's strengths is she spends hours memorizing information about the athletes ahead of time so that she has the experience like someone who's been in the sport 20 years for, who's coming up. I'm going to pair her with, ideally, Colin Bryce, or I might ask another very talented person to jump up in there, and
Sure.
I'll wait until I have 100% confirmation on who that might be as well before announcing. But no, Derek would be a fantastic MC, but I also want him as a judge. I think, this is World's Strongest Man. You are being judged by people who know that level.
Awesome. Yeah, I just more meant he's going to be in attendance and, with the log he used at ASM. Back in
I might have him go and mention how it was at 400 when it was brand new.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it looked a little. I can picture the photo of him pressing it over his head, and it looked a little fresher than I think the log. Not Derek. Derek still looks great, but the log looked just a little bit, more fresh off the mill. But yeah, I think the main story there's gonna be a bunch of people, but Kristen Rhodes, I know Samantha Coleman did like a 260 earlier this year, but I'm not sure. It's hard. That's why it's so hard to keep strongman records, because it's like, is that log like an 8? Are you just doing like 10 plus? So it's kind of weird, but basically, like, they're like the only 2 that have ever pressed 250 plus in some sort of contest. And Kristen, I mean, you saw how she did at Strongest Woman in the World with what ended up being like 212-ish or maybe more. So 250, there's good. That's even if it's 260, whatever you want to call the official, strong woman world record. That's getting shattered. We'd be led to believe.
Absolutely, and I would be out of place not to mention I had almost a world record at a contest 2 years ago at Dorton Arena on log with Danielle Curry, and she went for 255, and it was one of those where it was just right there. It was so exciting for the crowd. Yeah, that record, even if it's changed, the record for women's max log will go down. I guarantee it. Mm-hmm. I also believe the talent in the middleweight division for ladies,
that's going to
there's going to be.
Lot higher.
Oh yeah. I don't know if they're going to be of the likes of Kristen and Samantha and some of the open ladies, but there's a handful to maybe even a dozen who are going to be going over 200 on the log. Oh yeah. And it's a 12-inch log for these ladies. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited. I also, another fun thing, I've got a lot of good friends in the sport. I was there when Anthony Furman got his 800 deadlift PR, and that was a big milestone. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize, but we've got at least half a dozen 105 kilogram athletes that have over 800 or above deadlifts. Yeah, I mean, insane. These are incredible athletes out there.
Yeah, then we got, then the next events, you got yoke carry, car deadlift for reps, yoke carries pretty standard stuff.
Now, let me ask you this on yoke.
Sure.
I keep getting a couple of individuals going and telling me that I need to up the weight on the yoke, which, I remember the days when a grand on yoke was a thing that people feared, and now they're telling me that it needs to be 100 pounds heavier. So what's your take on the weight for the yoke?
I'm looking at the women's side right now. I think, if I'm going to be completely honest, I think in relation to the carry medley, it's a little light if you're going to go off relative, but I don't think it's light, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think the weight's pretty good. What is the weight for the 231 and the Giants Live qualifier for the yoke?
I think I've got 900 on 231s and 1,000 for the Giants Live, the men's open and the men's masters.
I mean,
so
I don't
it's
think,
kind of crazy.
Think that's, it's it could go up 100 pounds more, but ASM was just an 1,100 pounds, and other than Jerry Pritchett, and it didn't look that comfortable for most of them. So
they weren't running with it.
No, I think Jerry did it in 12 something seconds, 60 feet, and Brian Clark got second, I think, in 19. So, and with 11, I think there's plenty of, plus you have to factor in they're going to do a yoke into what I assume is going to be a heavy car deadlift. So they'll probably be, thankful it was a little lighter and a little bit more of a sprint when they then have to go car deadlift with their back afterwards. You got to look at the contest as a whole, I feel.
Yeah. Well, I think a 600-pound yoke for the women's division is pretty cool to see, me personally.
I think the problem is a lot of people, because it's 400 for the lightweight women, which isn't heavy for them.
Yeah.
But I think the yoke has been programmed in a lot of shows heavier in relation to other events, is why it's kind of getting skewed. Because if a frame's a certain weight, you either can pick it or not, but everyone can kind of struggle to some degree with a yoke, no matter the weight, within reason, of course. But you can kind of pick it, you can kind of walk. So I was at a local show here, and I think the lightweight women's yoke was maybe 330 or something, but it didn't look great for most of them. And I was just that's kind of heavy, but for the level of show, especially if you're comparing that Worlds is 70 pounds heavier. But I don't think it needed to be that heavy. It looked kind of grueling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
just because they can do it doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at 3 times body weight or very close to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So certainly in proportion, pretty heavy. That being said, the lightweight women are incredible in some of those events.
They're gonna sprint, some of them, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay to have one.
You got to have a speed event in there every now and then. No one wants a contest that's all max events. No one wants a contest that's just a running competition.
Yeah.
Got to have a balance.
Yeah. So you got max log. So it's about the true, in my opinion, about the truest test of overhead strength there is. Clean and press for max weight on a log. You got a good sprint with the yoke. You got a car deadlift, which I'm assuming is going to be heavy.
It's going to be heavy, and one of the things that I do that a lot of people don't. I've got a great relationship with Taggart Autosport, so yes, it's obviously more spectator friendly, but also they've got these really cool 6-figure cost aerial Nomad is the off-road version. We started with the aerial Atom back 2 years ago. These are only 1,600 pound vehicles or something like that. The aerial Nomad's more weight, but I don't raise up the handles for the ladies. I see all these competitions where women on car deadlift, because the car is so heavy, they end up having just this little lockout because they raise it up on boards. I would rather it go through the full range of motion. And so everyone's going to experience that, and they might not have in the past. But no, the vehicles are going to look really cool. The car deadlift, I try my best to make it heavy. I do not like seeing 20 reps. That tells me that I did something wrong. But it does happen every now and then. Someone like you who has the right build for car deadlift, you're a good squatter and you've got short limbs and you know the technique around it, you can crank it out. Other than that, I don't want a rep fest. It's going to be heavy. The hard part is this isn't, stock vehicles that I can guarantee it's going to be this exact vehicle.
Right.
I was really bummed when they went and sold the red Jeep that was completely rhino lined, every single piece of it. So it was like the heaviest Jeep in the world. And they sold it just a month before the contest. So I had more of a standard Jeep on there. And, it was still heavy as hell, but it just didn't have that spectator feel. But this particular car deadlift is going to be side handle and very heavy. I think people need to prepare for, under a dozen reps as opposed to thinking about how they're going to optimize for going 20 plus.
Sure. Yeah. And I think it's a good point. Like when you say, like, I pulled, there's a couple of times where I was at contests, I pulled a lot of reps, but that's because they put more blocks under it for the 175s. And I said, and I was in the rules meeting, I'm like, we need less. We're shorter. Like that. How does it make any sense to make the range of motion less for the, if you're doing strongman, there's a couple of them out there that are like 6 feet tall, but you're going to be fairly short if you're competing at 175 and you got the muscle mass to do it. So yeah, I think that's great that you're adjusting the vehicles rather than the height for the difficulty. Make it a truer test of strength.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen plenty of videos of ladies at very high level competitions just repping out a car. Oh, yeah. And I look and it's absolutely just a high yoke pick.
Yeah,
it's just the last little bit of hips.
Yep. Yeah. It makes it easy. So then, where'd you come up with the sadistic carry medley? Frame into Husafeld and the sandbag. I think that's going to hurt a lot of people's feelings. Like just, it's at the end of the day. You just did a heavy car deadlift. Now you got to do this 3-part medley, which aren't seen very often at shows. Which I think it's great. Yeah, you're throwing in a little cardio there too.
Absolutely. And I love programming events for contests because you're, of course, going to have an overhead. You're, of course, going to have a deadlift. You're going to have a moving event. You're going to have a loading event. But usually there's this fifth other event that you get to tailor. Is my competition going to be more overhead focused, more deadlift focused, more sprinty, moving focused? Mm-hmm. What is it? Well, with a 6-event contest, it just was even more exciting. So I thought about grip and I thought about, transition speed and some of the technical aspects of strongman. Everything else leading up to this was just one implement. I think a medley serves a strong purpose in strongman because it teaches you transitions.
Absolutely.
If you've never practiced hopping between implements, you have not optimized yourself for a competition because I remember just practicing. Okay, am I gonna sort of hop to the right 2 times, or am I going to turn my body? That kind of thing. In this instance, the frame is going to be a good test of grip. I didn't make it so ridiculous that I think people are going to necessarily fail the frame at this high of level in the contest. The Husafell, sorry, it's meant to be picked from the ground. That's my feeling. Also, you watch, people take a lot of time on their setup of Husafell. I think it was a fun thing to do, not putting Husafell first, because I wanted to see, okay, who can really transition and do this Husafell pick correctly. Ideally, I would, of course, load things onto a platform, but I had to be, the promoter and think about some logistics. And this event is designed to go one direction and then back the other way.
Sure.
And so the Husafell is just going to be dropped onto a padded surface. that I have rather than loading it on something. But I also like the fact that, I end with a sandbag. I've got this memory of 2014 North Carolina Strongest Man, where I'm watching a good friend of mine, Michael Schultz, carrying a 300-pound sandbag, and he's just falling across the finish line. And I love that because it's the kind of thing where you can get exhausted, and I also don't have to worry about you hurting yourself. I've got 300-plus man falling with a 300-pound sandbag, and it's just like a beanbag chair. No issue whatsoever. Whereas if it was like a Husafel or a keg afterwards, I might have to worry. But by ending with the sandbag, I can truly have these people go all out, go to exhaustion, and just sort of collapse at the end.
Yeah, it's
I
like
guess
having
sadistic is right.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, it's like having like a backwards drag or something at the end. Like you're not. Like, yeah, I can't tell you like. Just being at some shows, even some, local or level shows, and like you see people get into exhaustion with certain implements, and like I get scared. Like I'm just like, people drop stuff on themselves, so it's great that you have the safety in mind. And then, that wraps up the first day. Then you make the cut, top 10, go to day 2. I don't, if it's not finalized, you don't have to say, but is there going to be like a normalization of scores, or do you know how that's going to work?
No, I don't think that it should zero back out personally.
Yeah.
Because then I'm choosing world's strongest man or world's strongest woman based off of their stones ability or truck pull. You know what's going to happen? A tall, heavy person's going to win. Right. That's not correct in my opinion. So I don't know if it's finalized or not, but my intention is to keep the scores the way they are. It's a 6-event contest for people who make day 2. And the truck pull is going to test people. Obviously I've got TBD written down right now because you never can tell what's going to be available. And I am going to do a test run. I've done truck pull at Dorton Arena in the past. I think Aaron Fondry can give you some fond memories of the seam in the concrete that they all believed was a gentle rise and caused the vehicle to come to a stop right there. And, this is a flat concrete arena, but there is a seam and, that quarter of an inch rise. And I guarantee Aaron will be able to explain. It was there. But it's a good venue for it. It's an older arena, so it's not like that smooth concrete that's all glossy still. Okay. So people aren't going to have a slip fest. You will get traction on it, and it's perfectly flat. I've got Taggart has this huge semi that I used at the NC Strength Challenge during the hurricane. So videos and pictures aren't that great. But it's 59,000 pounds, just the cab. It's like a semi with a motorhome attached to it. I mean, it's huge. I've got that slated for the men's heavy and men's masters, and I might even have the 105 kilogram do that. I am checking to see what other vehicles are appropriate. The days of being able just to use your 26-foot Penske truck are over. Even the women's lightweight, and they would just run with it. At this level, that is just not heavy enough.
Yeah, I agree. And then it's a heavy stone series. I'm not gonna lie.
It's probably because I like stones, and people have said that, certain events that I do are heavier just because I happen to be good at them. Sure. Well, at that point, almost all of them are heavy. A little, proud of myself. But the stones in particular, I got brand new stones made for this contest. They are, equal to within half a pound of each other. I had awesome. A friend, Thomas Bowman, Tommy Tech stones, make him. And what we did is we went and purchased 2 Slater's hardware stone molds, and we made them next to each other. So 1 scoop in, 1 scoop out of the exact same mixture.
Right.
And after we removed them from the molds, we weighed them and even ground the bottoms to get them within half a pound of each other. This is the fairest head-to-head stone series I think you will ever find, unless Steve Slater made your stones for you. I mean, this is going to be brand new stones. You'll be allowed to, pre-tack the stones, of course, before contest and things like that. But they're fair, and since they're brand new, it's the only way that I thought would be fair to do a head-to-head series, and I wanted to finish with a head-to-head series because that's what I grew up watching. That's World's Strongest Man to me.
Yeah, it's just it seems like there's some attention paid to spectators as well. I think if you didn't qualify, you should make it out there to do it. I got to look into plane tickets and get that all squared away for myself, but definitely plan on being there. But yeah, with the type of events, it's definitely it should be a show. I don't know if a lot of the other stuff is filmed for TV. I don't know if you have any information on that, or if, sort of the live stream for people that can't make it if they're gonna watch it. But there's
there will be.
Yeah, go ahead.
There will be live streaming. We're going to have live streaming for sure. I'm not going to go and say who is doing the live streaming right now until Colin Bryce is done with the contract. I believe he is also trying to do some video for some stuff outside of the live streaming. And I know that some of the other sponsors are planning on doing, video interviews during the contest day. I mean, there's going to be a lot of content produced from this contest. And that's kind of the way it should be. I always feel like I feel like I miss out. We've got America's Strongest Man, the heavyweights going on right now. Obviously, when people are listening to this, it's not going to be going on. But, this weekend, and, gosh, I hunger for more. I want to be front row. So how it's handled through video is going to be really critical as well. So there's a lot of attention to being paid to that, which is a little bit new for me. This will be my third contest that's live streamed, and I am learning more and more about the balance of running a smooth contest versus also making it easy to follow for the live streaming.
Yeah.
So, it is challenging. With this contest, I am making a goal of only doing one event at a time. I don't want to, hey, I'm running behind, or hey, I'm running ahead and I just want to get this over with. So I'm going to go and wrap up and start the next event, or some contests that end up with more athletes than they've got equipment for. We'll do, 5 events at the same time, round robin, and who knows what your order is. That's not the case here. We're doing a lot of equipment to make sure that we can run the appropriate number of lanes to get 260 athletes, 4 events done during the correct amount of time, but also keep it true to a live stream so that you can focus on one event at a time.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an undertaking. I think you're up for the job, and appreciate you coming on, and, look forward to coming out there in December and chatting some more and hopefully helping out how I can. Again, if anyone wants any more information, it's trainstrongman.com, best place to get it.
Certainly. I'm on the web all day through my day job and whatnot, so I update my website quite a bit. So sometimes it's a better source of information than even official strongman. That being said, I'm pretty open. Go ahead and message me if you have questions. I will try to update the website if I get too many questions about the same thing, so that I don't have to repeat myself. But no, I'm excited about this. It's not a drag for me. I do not mind the questions. Keep them coming. And if people want to, get involved at the sponsorship level, reach out to me. If people want to get involved saying, hey, I just want to, help spread the word, what would you like? Or, any of that kind of stuff, it takes a village to go and get this thing off the ground. It is not me by myself. It just would not happen. I've got a lot of help from a lot of different angles, and getting spectators into this arena will be the biggest challenge. We've already got the top level athletes across the entire world. That is done with. That is confirmed. The talent is there. Now it's about spreading the word, and that's where my focus is going.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something I think on a lot, where you see, and people like Darren Sadler and Colin Bryce have built it up over years, where, Europe's or Britain's Strongest Man, the Giants Live finals they just had, you look and there's a crowd of people that all paid and they look forward to that, and they don't necessarily even train strongman. Like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
But then here we have so many more people that do the sport, but then, like a big level show might be in like there might be like 8 people watching it live, like, around.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get in America that same kind of appreciation to watch, not just to compete, not just to train, not just to do strongman, but to spectate it, and that's the only way that the sport goes from here. I think there's a lot of people doing it, but there needs to be at the highest level people that actually also want to just come and watch it. So shows aren't based on their growing, based on how many athlete entries. Then you're able to get more sponsors because they know there's 5,000 people in the stands that are going to see their banners and everything. That's how it goes from here, I think. So
I think so too. And frankly, I'm not looking to fill the 5,000 stadium seats with people from all over the world necessarily. I need to do a lot of focus on the local area.
Yeah.
And that is underway. I think one of the things I'm going to start doing, I've got the advantage of, I've got people helping me. So Derek Poundstone was strategic back in the old Strongman Super Series. Is that right? The Mohegan Sun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He got thousands of people to show up for that.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably still, other than, a sports festival or an expo, one of the most well-attended strongman contests ever in the U.S.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
He's been giving me tips on how he was able to do it in some of the media things, but
that's great.
We're going to try our best. I really believe that everything is in place, and now it's just a matter of spreading the word out. And we're going to have a lot of people that are coming in. I really appreciate anyone who's willing to drive a state away or a couple states away or fly in. That is fantastic. But if I don't get, 500 locals, then I feel like I may have failed on some of my local promotions.
Sure. But yeah, and that's something I've found is it's really the local community. Like, I can put this out there, thousands of people can listen to it, but they're all over the globe. I'm sure that there's a lot of people participating, and in today's day and age with social media being so big, we forget locally. Like, I can go to an expo and take pictures with people, but I walk down my street every day. And I'm just that guy. Like, it's it's just how it is. So the local is the biggest angle. Good luck with that. We'll do, I'll do what I can, helping people go out and, putting stuff like this out. And if you are within, a state's drive away, I urge you to, I think it's a good idea to come. Like, you got Zadruna Savickas, Nick Best, you got Derek Poundstone helping out. Like, there's just, even not just the competitors, but pretty much there's going to be the who's of strongman that weekend. So.
Oh, absolutely. Well, to give you a little heads up of what's coming up, we're going to go ahead and create some posters or some flyers for the different event that people will be able to download a PDF and print for their local gym.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I can't distribute flyers and reach the critical mass that's needed to really let the world know about this. So going to do that digitally, and then in my local area, do some prints. But that's going to come. I think I'm also going to be working with individuals to produce some video content. And if any of your listeners out there are willing to assist with the video work, I would certainly greatly appreciate it. And I think that's going to be a key towards spreading the word. I can tell you from just the online qualifier videos that I shared when people earned their invites, videos draw more attention.
They do.
And so that I can make a flyer all day, but I think if I can get some assistance from the strongman community on making some videos, that would be really, really terrific. And I know there's a lot of stories to be told out there of people and what this contest means to them. And I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of support to get involved and help any way they can. And I'm not looking for money to help with the contest. I'm looking for, actual assistance, your time. I think that makes the difference.
Absolutely. Awesome. I want to thank you again for coming on. Of course, Lynn Morehouse on Facebook, at Train Strongman on Facebook, trainstrongman.com, officialstrongman.com. I'll be doing my best to put it up on Starting Strongman and the Facebook group for questions, and the website with news. Maybe once there's like an absolute confirmed athlete list, I'll definitely share that and stuff like that.
Oh, so, we're getting close.
I know.
Yeah.
So don't want to take up any more of your time on Sunday. Again, appreciate you coming on. We'll have to do this again, and anything else you like to add?
No, I think we're good. I appreciate everyone who's gotten involved with this and all the number of kind messages people have sent saying thank you for all your hard work. I think everyone recognizes that this is a monumental task. I definitely want to, say thanks to all the individuals, the unsung heroes that are helping me in the background. I get a lot of the credit because I can sometimes be the voice of the work going on, but there's a tremendous amount of effort to make this a success. I am certain that it will be. And if people have questions, let me know. Keep it going, spread the word, and this is going to be great. So I'm looking forward to our either another talk before or definitely a talk at the contest when you're there, Kalle.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe not with a microphone, but
yeah.
That's
we'll
always good as
private.
Well. That's always good as well. Always good talking to you. The Strong Talk Podcast. I'm Kalle Beck. Of course, everything you need for Strongman at startingstrongman.com. And thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.